次に、発表するイアン・ガーリントンが大阪大学で、60年代アメリカにおけるサイケデリック経験が SF やコミックスに与えた影響についての博士論文を提出されまして、今は関西外国語大学で教えていらっしゃいます。で、今日の発表でイアンは、ジェル・マケナーという名のもとで書かれている、統一した自己としての経験を復覧する方法について語っている部分をポエトリーリーディングのように、引用の部分ですね、引用の部分を紹介してくださいます。よろしくお願いします。
英語で発表させていただきます。Jed said, "The ego is a bird's nest, haphazardly collected and carelessly placed, shaped by every bit of debris and every breeze that had ever passed its way. Once you start tearing it apart, you'll find very little to identify with, and even less that was consciously placed there by you. Jed said the self that takes part in the creation and development of self was not itself a product of self, but of countless non-self agencies and events. So what is the self, really? Jed said, you can try to take control of yourself, try to make some sense of it, organize it, but all you can really do is tidy up on the surface. Jed said, the idea that true self lurks within the clutter is just one of the little vanities that keeps us walking in small, purposeful circles. Jed said, there is no such thing as true self. Jed said you and what you are is a lie. Jed said, true self is no self. Jed said, know thyself is bullshit. Jed said, deprogram thyself is what it's all about. Jed said, awakening, reaching enlightenment, or abiding non-dual awareness is the process of deprogramming. Enlightenment is the unprogrammed state. Jed said, enlightenment is a deliberate act of self-annihilation. Jed said, enlightenment is impersonal. Jed said, the idea of the individual self, valid and separate, unravels very quickly under any serious scrutiny. He said all beliefs do. Jed said, what takes time and effort is becoming the personality who chooses to put the idea of self under such scrutiny and making sense of what is left after belief is gone. Jed said we live our entire lives under false pretenses, in a case of mistaken identity. We subscribe fully and without reservation to our false selfhood, mistaking the two-dimensional roles we play for who and what we really are. Jed said the false self we identify with is just a character we play, so it doesn't have to be killed. What needs to be killed is the part of us that identifies with the character. Jed said insanity is identifying with your character in the stage drama we call consensus reality. Jed said attachment arises when you forget that you're dreaming. Jed said most human beings cease to develop around the age of 10 or 12. Jed said nothing is okay. Jed said it's the exact opposite of okay. There are no winners. There is no success. Jed said there is only fear. Fear disguised as love, fear disguised as compassion, fear making the unreal seem real. Jed said, as animals, we are designed to survive and protect our young and to keep our species going. Jed said fear drives the whole process. Jed said people are like prisms hit by that single beam, which then splits into all the emotions of the rainbow. Fear refractors. Jed said happiness, peace, prosperity, health, salvation, and life after everlasting are none other than greed, vanity, ego, all arising from fear. Jed said illusion is composed of fear and denial of truth. Jed said denial of fear is the motivation underlying all activities which humans engage. Jed said Thoreau said that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. There is a part of you that wants to be agitated, to bust things up, and to see what they're really made of. and there's a part that keeps that part swallowed down. Fear. Jed said it's a fear of losing what you have, but you don't really have anything. Jed said nothing is yours, and nothing you do matters. Jed said depression is fear with hope removed. Jed said depression arises when we discover that something we thought could be ours will never be ours. Jed said unhappiness is when we worry about not having something. Jed said depression is when we realize we will never have it. Jed said freedom is when we realize that nothing is ours and nothing can be ours, so in effect, nothing isn't ours. Jed said you are at the center of the universe. Jed said all beliefs are nonsensical. Jed said we want to maintain the illusion that we are not completely alone on an infinite sea, but of course, that's exactly what we are, and there ain't no we about it. Jed said the question is, what do you know? Jed said the answer is, I am, cogito ergo sum. What else can be said for certain? Nothing. Jed said that's the real point of the cogito. Jed said the importance of I am isn't that it's a fact, but that it's the only fact. Jed said I am is the only thing anyone has ever known or ever will know. Jed said solipsism is the ultimate heresy. Jed said the most horrible punishments have always been saved for the heretics. Jed said no belief is true. Jed said all beliefs are like ugly babies. Everyone thinks theirs is the most beautiful in the world, but they all look and smell the same. Jed said, I can no longer distinguish any difference between any two people's beliefs. Jed said duality is a dream. Jed said there's not one single thing that matters about the dream, except that you're dreaming. Jed said wake up. Jed said wake up first, then worry about the rest. Jed said the content of the dream is completely meaningless in the waking world. If this is a dream, the content of our world has no importance. Jed said a person is either in the process of awakening or they aren't. Jed said one is either confronting reality or denying it. Jed said, here's a simple test. If something is soothing or comforting, if it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, if it's about getting into pleasant emotional or mental states, if it's about peace, love, tranquility, silence, or bliss, if it's about a brighter future or a better tomorrow, if it makes you feel good about yourself or boosts your self-esteem, tells you that you are okay, tells you that everything's just fine the way it is, if it offers to improve, benefit, or elevate you, or if it suggests that anyone else is better than you, if it's about belief or faith or worship, if it raises or alters consciousness, if it combats stress or deepens relaxation, or if it's therapeutic or healing, or if it promises happiness or relief from unhappiness, if it's about any of these things, or any similar things, then it's not about waking up. It's about living in the dream, not smashing out of it. On the other hand, Jed says if it feels like you're being skinned alive, like a prolonged evisceration, if you feel your identity unraveling, if it twists you up physically and drains your health and derails your life, if you feel love dying inside you, if it seems like death would be better, then that is probably the process of awakening. Jed said we don't want to awaken from the dream. Jed said we want to dream that we are awake. Jed said the true desire that drives the process of awakening is more akin to psychotic madness. Jed said no pain, no gain. Jed said real thinking is invariably destructive and pain-causing. Jed said intellect is the sword by which the self commits suicide, 1,000 little cuts. Jed said waking up from the dream is a very straightforward process. Jed said it doesn't take decades. It doesn't look like tranquility or a calm and peaceful mind. Jed said it doesn't look like saving others or saving the world or even saving yourself. Jed said waking up looks like a massive mental and emotional breakdown, because that's exactly what it is. The granddaddy of all breakdowns. Jed said that's the only way it works. Jed said enlightenment is the loss of ego, identity, humanity, mind, car, money, jewelry, respect, specificity in time, solidity in place, in space, strict adherence to physical laws, and to your reason for living. Jed said your life, yourself, is all a fabrication, created to shield you against the plain truth. Jed said the self is the distortion of a lens that perceives. Jed said the exact distortion of the lens is what makes the exact individual. Distortion itself is self. Jed said all personality traits understood this way are flaws, imperfections in a lens that exists to be imperfect. Jed said imperfection does not otherwise exist, so an artificial imperfection is created, ego. Jed said people may strive for the perfect lens. Jed said the perfect lens is no lens, no imperfections, no lens, just what is. Jed said the world goes on perfectly without you. Jed said the point of finite and imperfect lenses is to create artificial realms of finiteness and imperfection in which to play. Jed said it's all just a fucking game. Jed said the universe is really just a big, playful puppy. Jed said seeing a wave in the ocean as having a beginning and an ending is the limited perspective of ego. Jed said, as you sever your attachments and stop squandering your emotional energy, your perspective broadens. Jed said back away from the wave and you see tides and thermal dynamics. Jed said back further and you see global currents, lunar influences, planetary and solar histories. Jed said back further beyond your notions of time and space, and only now do you begin to see that wave, to know it, and to know, as a living reality, that the wave is you, and you are the wave. Jed said that Herman Melville said that there are certain queer times and occasions in this strange mixed affair we call life, when a man takes his whole universe for a vast practical joke, though the wit thereof he but dimly discerns, and more than suspects that the joke is at nobody's expense but his own. Jed said Moby Dick is the greatest spiritual text ever written. Jed said Moby Dick is the nihilist's Bible. Jed said Moby Dick is the record of Melville's own process of self-annihilation. Jed said Ahab is Ishmael. Jed said Ahab is the narrator of Moby Dick. Jed said it was Ahab that survives, floating alone for 2 days on Queequeg's coffin, an orphan. Jed said, like Melville, we too can combine writing and prayer, using each to advance the other. Jed said use writing to locate and illuminate your falseness, and thereby develop a healthy self-contempt. Jed said the strength of that emotion will empower your prayer, which is prayer for the courage and ability to locate and illuminate your falseness, and so on. Jed said it's all about the first step. Jed said the first step is taking the red pill. Jed said the first step is suicide, is a suicide run. Jed said there is no return. Jed said the first step is the starting point for the whole process. Jed said everything else in life is about not taking the first step. Jed said, until you take the first step, it's all just a hobby, like golf or stamp collecting. Jed said, until the first step, it's all academic. Jed said there is a way we can reclaim the infinite dimension from which we are presently severed by ego and by fear. Jed said there is a way we can regain entry into that from which we have been cast out, garden, paradise, heaven on earth. Jed said any and everyone can do this. It's not reserved for the elite or the intelligent or the devout, any more that sunlight is reserved for the wealthy or worthy. Jed said it doesn't take years or decades or lifetimes. It is proven, documented, irrefutable, consistently reproducible science. It is easy, cheap, and here, right now. Jed said the true golden key is lysergic acid diamethylide, LSD, instant Buddhahood, free and easy access for everyone. Jed said, I'm not talking about a hippie renaissance, or renewed government testing, or more university studies. Jed said, I'm talking about unrestricted access to normally unavailable dimensions of selfhood, and the criteria I settled on as a clear standard was free and easy access for everyone. Jed said, LSD happens to meet that standard, and nothing else does. Jed said free and easy access for everyone renders all religions and philosophies and spiritual teachings instantly obsolete and irrelevant and good riddance. Jed said, if chemical mysticism means you can drag any bum in off the street after breakfast and have him experiencing a full-blown state of God consciousness before lunch, then the rules have changed. Jed said, we're talking about a very powerful substance, capable of completely revolutionizing someone's understanding of reality in a few hours. Jed said the genie got out of the bottle for a while, and for a while was free. Jed said the genie got out of the bottle, and for a little while, free and easy access for everyone was a reality. Not for long, but it was there. An emerging new religion with an authentic sacrament instead of a symbolic sacrament. Jed said, then the genie got crammed back into the bottle, and the bottle was labeled poison, and buried so deep it might be generations before it's seen again. Jed said, one of the important lessons we can take from the psychedelic episode in our history, the 60s, is that we are, without a doubt, at the shitty end of the potential spectrum. Jed said every culture in history has had their method for accessing the great within. But it was always restricted to the few, the elite, renunciates, shamans, and the like. But now, for the first time ever, we have it in our power to make it freely and easily available to everyone. Everyone. The most important event in the history of man. And what happens? The whole world rises up against it. Jed said society villainized, demonized, and criminalized psychedelics so effectively that here we are now, a few decades later, and all that can really be said for mankind's one chance for liberation is that a hole in the wall was brought to the attention of the warden and promptly repaired. Jed said, who gives a fuck what anyone said? You don't know they said it. You don't even know what they meant by it. And you don't even know if they existed. So what do you know? Jed said, it's self-verify or fail. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。これで私たちの発表は終わりなんですが、もう時間ですね。